Some stories, they start with this huge, explosive beginning. This one? This one starts at the end. It starts with a voice that an entire generation grew up with, suddenly going silent. Today, we're going to talk about the incredible, the triumphant, and ultimately the tragic story of Brad Arnold.
You see a headline like that and it just stops you in your tracks. Brad Arnold, the unforgettable frontman for Three Doors Down, passed away on February 7th, 2026. He was only 47. For millions of people, the news was a total shock.
And this quote right here, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? For so many of us, his voice wasn't just some music on the radio. It was the soundtrack to our lives. It really did define a whole era of rock music. So let's take a closer look at the final moments of that life. So here's what we know. He passed away peacefully with his family around him, holding his wife Jennifer's hand. It was the end of a really courageous 9-month fight with cancer. But to really understand the end of his story, we have to go all the way back to the very, very unlikely beginning. Okay, so let's rewind the clock, way back. Before the sold-out stadiums, before the platinum records, there was just a kid sitting in a classroom in a town that most people have never even heard of. The whole story of this global rock band starts right here, Escatawapa, Mississippi, a tiny little town of about 3,000 people. I mean, it is about as far away from the rock and roll world as you can possibly get. The story behind these lyrics, it's just wild. Brad Arnold was only 15 years old. He was bored out of his mind in math class, just doodling in a notebook instead of doing his work. He wasn't trying to write some legendary rock anthem. He was just a teenager writing down how he felt.
And that doodle from math class, that little thought, it became Kryptonite, a song that would go on to sell 8 million copies. 8 million! It spent 11 weeks at #1. It's just a mind-blowing number that shows you how a simple moment of teenage angst can turn into a song the whole world knows. But here's the crazy twist in the story. Brad Arnold was never even supposed to be the singer. See, when Three Doors Down started back in '96, he was the drummer. But they didn't have a frontman, so Arnold just kind of stepped out from behind the drum kit and grabbed the microphone. It was a move they made because they had to, and it literally changed rock history.
So this sudden launch into stardom, it brought them all this incredible success, but it also came with a really, really heavy price.
And the success was just massive. We're talking 20 million albums sold worldwide. 3 #1 hits, they got a Grammy nomination, they even played the Super Bowl. I mean, they were literally on top of the world.
But there was this whole other side to the story, a much darker side. While the world was seeing the rock star on stage, behind the scenes, Brad was falling into a really devastating battle with addiction. Alcohol almost completely destroyed him, and his story went from being a triumph to, well, a cautionary tale.
And the tragedy, it wasn't just his alone. The whole band seemed to be haunted by it. Their original guitarist, Matt Roberts, died from a prescription drug overdose back in 2016. The bassist, Todd Harrell, ended up in serious legal trouble. And through all that chaos, Brad Arnold was the one constant. He was the survivor who somehow kept it all together and kept the music going. But Arnold didn't just survive. He actually found a way to turn his deepest, darkest pain into his greatest purpose. This is where the story really turns around. Just last year, in 2025, he celebrated a full decade of being sober. 10 years. That was a huge victory for him, a real testament to his strength and his fight to get his life back from the very edge. And he didn't just keep that victory to himself. He became this really powerful voice, speaking with incredible honesty about his addiction. He used his own story to basically shine a light for other people who were struggling, turning that cautionary tale into a story of real hope. So, after conquering his addiction, Brad Arnold had one last, massive fight on his hands. And just like with his recovery, he chose to face it not by hiding, but right out in the open. In May of 2025, he got the diagnosis: clear cell renal cell carcinoma. It's a really aggressive type of kidney cancer, and it had already gotten to stage 4 and spread to his lungs. The doctors told him it was terminal. But instead of disappearing, Arnold did something pretty remarkable. He brought his fans along with him on that final journey. All through that summer, he was posting video updates right from his hospital bed, even shaving his own head on camera when the chemo made his hair fall out. He faced the very end on his own terms, with so much grace and honesty. And this became his battle cry. It's a powerful line from one of their hits back in 2008, but it suddenly took on this profound, completely new meaning. It was his declaration that he was going to fight, a lyric that fans all over the world rallied around. It was a symbol of him just refusing to give up.
His fight might be over, but his story definitely isn't. The real measure of his life now is in the legacy he left behind, a legacy that's carved into his lyrics and melodies forever.
And this is why his voice will never, ever truly be silent. I mean, think about it. Kryptonite is still blasted at sports stadiums everywhere. Here Without You is probably the go-to breakup song for an entire generation. And When I'm Gone, that song has become this incredibly powerful tribute at military funerals. His music is just woven into the fabric of our lives. When you really look at his life, it kind of unfolds in these 4 clear chapters. First, he was the dreamer, just a kid in math class. Then, he became the rock star, the voice for millions. Then, he became the cautionary tale, a tough lesson about the dangers of fame. But in the end, he became the inspiration, a man who faced his demons, won, and then faced death with a courage that inspired all of us.
It's a story about music, fame, addiction, and redemption. But when you boil it all down, it started with a 15-year-old kid doodling in a notebook. And it just leaves you with this one big question. How can a single song from a classroom go on to define a life and then echo long, long after its creator's voice has fallen silent?